Hey everyone, so this is Marco Polo Season 2, Episode 5, entitled Lullaby. So basically, um, before I actually get into the episode, I am using a new camera and in a new position in my room, clearly. Um, but I'm hoping that this new camera is going to be better than the one on my tablet. Hopefully, it's not as grainy or anything. If my videos prior have been grainy, but anyway, I'll test this out, see how it goes. Um, anyway, so getting into the episode starts off before the opening credits that the woman who guarded the boy emperor is giving several men a thing to kind of take somewhere. You don't know where at first, but then the camera follows this one man who has one of the things that she gave him, and he is taking it to a heavily trafficked area, and he sits it down on the table, kind of like, looks around skeptically, or not skeptically, suspiciously. That's the word I was looking for. Takes out a little, I guess, what's it called? I don't know really what's it called, but I can't think of the name at the moment. But it's like this little match thing, or this like little candle thing, and he lights it, and then he lights the end of a wick that's on the object that and then the object blows up, meaning it's a bomb, and then it goes to the opening credits, and then um, after the opening credits, Ahmed is in front of Kublai, and Marco and Jingham and the War Council is there, and Ahmed says that there were separate explosions, several separate explosions, um, and 5 rebels killed over 300 Mongols, and I think he then further said that there were over 1,000 that were injured. And then Jingham asks how long ago this was, and Ahmed's like 3 days ago. So there's a little bit of concern about if there has been any further attacks since then. Then Marco feels that well, first Ahmed kind of suggests something. I think I didn't write it down, so I don't quite remember it for sure if he actually suggested anything concrete. But Marco then feels like starting a war is not the right call at the moment. But Ahmed says they aren't starting a war, only making a statement. And then Marco says the last statement that you suggested, Ahmed, pushed them forward. He pushed forward led them to where they are now. And Ahmed suggests him that he lead the army that he is now in charge of, because he's vice regent now, not just the financial advisor, and to make the rebels be punished. And then Kublai pretty much accepts this. When everyone leaves, Ahmed then tries to put Marco in his place, and by saying that Marco isn't allowed to call him Ahmed, but vice regent. And then Ahmed then uses a veiled threat to Marco by not explicitly stating that he will kill him, but it's implied, hence veiled threat. And then as Ahmed leaves and is in the hall, I think he reminisces on 12 years prior, when he's already in Town Block, but he hasn't been promoted to financial advisor and or vice regent just yet. And he's in front of Kublai, and Kublai says Ahmed has dishonors him, and but Ahmed wishes to become a financial advisor, but first be a tax collector because he wants to get the lay of the land, I guess you could say. And he just wants to be able to understand the country and stuff. And eventually, Kublai and Chabi, allow him to do this. And then it goes to Karakoram, where Kaidu's mother scolds him for letting Bayamba ride away. Kaidu asks what he should have done or what he was supposed to do, and then asks, well, should I have started an all-out war? And she's like, slaughter them all. But he says it's because of her advice that his dim-witted son let the chieftains support Kublai. And she's like, take the support back and then stop trying to get an honorable victory. And then when his mother says, stop scrambling to name heirs, his daughter says she doesn't want the title of heir. Why don't you just give it to Oris, my brother? And Oris is like, I totally agree. It's like, dude, come on. Really, you just worldly fucked up, and you're trying to get your favor back, getting your father's good graces again. Like, get your life. Then Kaidu tells everyone but his daughter to leave, and when they do, he's like, he tells her that he doesn't care what she wants, and he tells her that she'll become the first female Khan because he gave everything up for her, his life, and it's implied his her mother, and she's like, that's not my burden. And he's like, well, is this punishment because of Byamba? And they argue a little bit more, and she tells him she refuses to be his heir because he wants her to do things his way and not her way. So there's that, and then I think she walks out. Then it goes to Marco showing Kublai Ahmed's orders for Byamba, which Ahmed places Byamba as a foot soldier. When then Ahmed comes up behind them and says Marco got the score from his desk. Marco doesn't dispute this at all. He says, yeah, I got it from your desk. I don't fucking care. And then Ahmed's like, he had no right to do it. Ahmed states that he was only putting Byamba there because he was told to put him in a suitable place, and he also did it so Byamba could earn his respect back. Marco disagrees, but Kublai ultimately decides with Ahmed anyway. And then Kublai and Ahmed, talk a little bit about stuff, and the way Ahmed phrases things, and even ultimately what Ahmed has said during this conversation afterwards, makes Marco kind of think that, or he doesn't really sort of state it obviously, but the way his facial expressions, the way you see the facial expressions you see him do or makes the viewer think that he suspects Ahmed is up to something. So there's that. It'll be addressed a little bit later in the episode, but before we get to that, it goes to Kublai being it's known that Kublai is going to travel to a chieftain who despises Kaidu to get his official support of Kublai, of himself. Ahmed tells this to Mei Lin, and he then complains that he's limping around. His limping around seems to be a prerequisite for the job of vice regent. And Mei Lin says to be lucky you're still alive, while she bandages his leg back up. Then it goes to Marco going up to Biamba as Biamba and the other soldiers get ready to ride out, and Marco says that Biamba should be the one leading the soldiers, but Biamba says it's fine. He's fine with it. And then a soldier, and then it cuts to Ahmed sitting in, I guess, his office area, and a soldier comes up to Ahmed with information. The soldier tells Ahmed that he brought the dead stable boy into Kokochin's room a few nights ago, when Ahmed and Jingham were missing, or had gone missing, and Ahmed, and then he says that it was at a very late hour by Chabi, at Chabi's command, basically. And Ahmed doesn't really respond at first. He gets up, pours a drink, and offers him the drink, and that's his first response to the whole thing. So that's the first you see of the whole situation, or the whole information being leaked and whatever. And then Chabi is in Kokochin's room with someone else, with this woman, and this woman is chanting over Kokochin's belly to find out the sex of the baby. But the person that they're kind of trying to get the information out of, which is, I think one of their gods, or god or something. I'm not too familiar with Asian mythology, so I can't really speak on it. But I'm assuming it's one of the I'm assuming that it's one of the guides, because from what I understand, in a lot of Asian culture, there has been polytheism, and so I'm assuming that that's what they're doing, is trying to chant to a god or a goddess to see what the sex of the baby is. But the woman can't find out, and so there's speculation that it's too early to tell, and stuff like that. And then it goes to Kokochin wondering if it's a boy. It goes to Kokochin and Chabi walking along, and Kokochin's wondering if it's a boy, and then she wonders if the person they chanted to knows that it isn't Jingham's, and then Chabi smacks her rather hard, because it's very loud. It's a very loud slap, even though it's on it in a specific in a show. And she does it once. She does it when Kokochin says the latter. And then Chabi's like, well, let's speak of the baby positively, not negatively. And then it goes to Kublai, who is trying to find Chabi, and he eventually finds her and tells her of the attack. So he has to dispatch them to South China, because of this, they won't accompany them to Xanadu. And then Chabi's like, I'm not going to Xanadu, and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why? Why not? And she tells him that since Kokochin is pregnant, Kokochin must be careful as to not lose the baby, and riding along a bumpy road could end up causing her to miscarry again. So, and Chabi then continues to say that they must think about her, so they don't lose the baby. She doesn't lose the baby. Kublai isn't happy about this and questions Chabi, and Chabi's like, well, my husband has no further need for my advice. He has no further need of me. Which I'm like, yes, that's very true. You can't honestly expect her to go to Xanadu when you just said previously in a previous, like, not even in the last episode, well, kind of mostly in the last episode, but he said in the last episode that he feels no need to take any more advice from her. So why would you take her to Xanadu? I mean, the only reason why you would take her to Xanadu is because you feel like you would need her advice. So either you want her advice or you don't. It's not one. It's not both. It's one or the other. Make up your fucking mind, dude. Make up your damn mind. I'm so tired of him at this point. I'm just like, stop. And then when she tries to leave, he grabs the back of her hair, like, and pulls her back forcefully before letting her go, and she walks away. Then, the fake Kokachin is, walking around by herself, and then someone comes out from the shadows and calls her by her real name, Nagui, and says it's been a long time. And dun dun dun, it's the real Kokachin. Then you see the fake Kokachin or Nagui, helping the real Kokachin in a bath. And she explains to the real one that she thought the real Kokachin had died. And the real one is like, well, that explains why you were able to go from peasant to princess overnight. Nagui wonders how the real Kokachin survived, and the real Kokachin explains that she was found by a group of villagers after the Khan had left after the Khan left of burning the village. Then the real Kokachin is like, she tried to find Nagui afterwards, but she couldn't find Nagui anywhere. Then all of a sudden she hears that Jingham is supposed to marry the Blue Princess, and that, I guess that's pretty much when she decided to make her way over here, or over to Khanbalak. Then the real Kokachin says that she wants her life back. The Nagui is like, I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give up Jingham. I don't want to give up my baby. But the real Kokachin is not having it. She's like, you found a way to take my life, so you're gonna have to find a way to give it all back. It's basically the whole thing. At least that whole episode, or that whole scene. And then it goes to Kaidu, saying he doesn't want to go after being the Khan if he can't do it with the if he can't deal with his family and on his own terms. And his mother offers to give him both. And then you see that a little bit later of how they go about it. Well, actually, the next scene is actually Kaidu's mother trying to cast the spineless demons out from Kaidu, and that goes on for like about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe, if that long. And then as Ahmed is being tied up again, he confesses to Maylin that he thinks Marco is a nuisance, and when Maylin has finally, tied him up, she tells him to get on his knees. He struggles to do that for a few seconds, but then he's able to get up on his knees, and he asks her if she'll get rid of Marco for him. She says, possibly, but first let me take care of you. And Ahmed is into some kinky ass shit. Like, I didn't expect his ass to be that fucking kinky. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but maybe that's wrong on my part to assume that shit, but I really was not expecting him to be kinky as fuck, because up until this point, he hadn't shown much of being on the showing any interest on being in the kinky side. So that's why I was like, okay. Then it goes back to 12 years prior when Ahmed is on his route as tax collector and is then subsequently bribed. He is bribed to forget someone's debt because apparently this woman's debt is so long or so large that they can't really forget it. He says that you can't really forget that you have this debt. And so she bribes him with uh, having sex with one of three women, and one woman is very much shades lighter than he is. The next woman is a couple shades darker, but still not quite the same shade as Ahmed is. And the third woman that she presents to him is the exact same shade as Ahmed, and um, she kind of gives the woman to him. Uh, and then it goes to back to the kind of present present as much as you can call the 13th century present at this point. And Kublai is told by Ahmed that far fewer soldiers are going to go with him originally thought, and then Maitland is to go with Kublai since Chabi refuses to go. Um, and Ahmed isn't happy about that. Clearly, his facial expressions kind of give his ass away. Then, as Marco trains with Hundred Eyes notices that there's something on Marco's mind, and so therefore asks him about it. Um, Marco explains that they never found out who hired the assassins trying to kill Kublai, and so Sangha is on his mind. And Hundred Eyes is like, well, why are you thinking about him and everything? And it's like, and then that's when kind of like he says that they never really found assassins, and then Hundred Eyes is like, well, Yusuf confessed to it, but Marco's like, you don't believe that, do you? And Hundred Eyes is like, well, go on, tell me what your theories are, or speculations are. And Marco's like, well, Ahmed ordered the entire army south when Kublai rides north with little protection. And then Ahmed also advised the execution of the boy emperor, demoted Bayamba for no apparent reason, and threatened Marco's life. Maybe not so many words, but he pretty much threatened to kill him. Hundred Eye says that Ahmed is the Khan's son and Marco's only a foreigner. It's like, well, Marco explains that, well, it's only a feeling that he has at the moment. Hundred Eyes has been training him to trust in his feelings. And he's like, well, do you expect me to just forget about my suspicions? And Hundred Eyes is like, well, no, not really. I don't expect you to just forget it. Then Marco visits Mei Lin and questions her how she knew the boy would die back in South China, and she says it was just an educated guess. Marco then, kind of forces her to look at him and says Ahmed wanted the boy dead. He asks if it was to incite war, and she tells him that the vice regent doesn't share war strategies with the woman who tried to kill his mother. And he's like, well, you're lying. I don't believe you. She advises him to take his questions and suspicions and run away. Then you see Ahmed visit Chabi and advises her to talk to Kublai. And she's like, well, Kublai doesn't want to speak to me. And then Ahmed's like, that's why Kublai wishes to take Milan with him. And I'm like, boy, whatever. Anyway, so it goes back to 12 years prior, and Ahmed is shown having sex with the woman that he was given, and she tells him after that he sleeps for about an hour, and then when he wakes up, she tells him that her husband and her son were killed by Ahmed's master, and then brought to where she is now. She gets up and starts, doing this and that, and she's humming a song that clearly Ahmed recognizes, and it's the same I'm pretty sure that it's the same song that he hummed in the previous episode when him and Jingham were still missing. Um, and he asks her what she is humming, and she explains it. It's a song she wrote for her son. Then it goes back to 13th century uh, Mongolia, where Ahmed asks Meilin if she had sex with Kublai, and she's like, "Well, what the fuck did you want me to do? Not to refuse him? I mean, that would have surely either gotten me injured or killed." Um, so she had no choice but to do it, but to have sex with him. And he tells her that her daughter will no longer live in the house of the Khan, and he will use her as a bargaining chip. And basically, she kind of like, talks about him using her as a bargaining chip and everything, and he's like, I don't really care, whatever. And then it goes to Kaidu walking on hot coals. Um, then Meilin is seen being visited by the woman who guarded the boy and says that she fulfilled her end of the deal. Meilin says that they need to amend her end of the deal because she wants the woman to find her daughter and spirit her away. Then she'll give the woman the monk. The woman says to Meilin, "Give me the monk, or I will not only kill you, but find your daughter and kill her too." So that's what Meilin does. Because the next thing you know, the woman goes to see Hundred Eyes, and they kind of do this like, I don't necessarily want to call it a dance, but that's what that's what it felt like that to me. But I'm not gonna say specifically that it was a dance because they were kind of like doing kung fu moves, and they were kind of doing it in a way that looked like a dance. Before she leaves without saying a word to him. And then Marco roams the halls. I think it seemed like he's on a mission to look for something, or look for someone, and Meilin shows up and tells him to follow her. She leads him to where the painting of Ahmed holding Kublai's detached head, or severed head, while he's sitting on the throne, and it isn't there anymore. And she's clearly surprised at this fact because she assumed that it was gonna be there. It was gonna be there, and it's not. So she's like, "Well, what the fuck just happened? Why is it not here anymore?" And so she just tells Marco to just up and leave, come black, and just leave. Before it cuts to Chabi going up to Kublai and saying that Kokachin is safe to travel. So she and Kokachin are gonna go to Xanadu with him, and he's like, "Well, that's great news." But then she throws the fur at Kublai and says, "Never again. Like, don't ever do that again to me." And then it goes back to 12 years prior to when Ahmed strangles the woman he had sex with, and then goes back and is then shown to be in front of Kublai 12 years prior still, and saying that he would like to go into the he would like to accept the position that Kublai offered him previously, and by his facial features in the last frame of the episode, it very much feels like it was 12 years prior at that point when Ahmed formulated his plan to kill Kublai. And so yeah, that's what it very much seemed like, and that's the whole end of this episode. So so I have kind of like a new prediction, one new prediction, but I'm gonna quickly talk about my previous predictions that are still very much the same. I think possibly Hundred Eyes is working with working with Ahmed and trying to kill Kublai. I think possibly Cuddlin is pregnant with Marco's baby, and she's going to, possibly try to pass it off as Bianca's baby. And then I think Mainland is going to run away with the daughter. Those are still my old predictions that I'm still gonna, predict. And then, I kind of have two new ones, instead of just one. The first one is, I feel like, Kokachin, the fake Kokachin is gonna be revealed. The fake Kokachin is obviously gonna be revealed, whether she wants it to or not, wants her true identity to be revealed or not. And it's going to be on a grander scale than just Chabi knowing that she's not the real Kokachin. And then I think that what was my next one? Oh yeah, I think that Ahmed is gonna die, because based off of this description of the sixth episode, it sounds like his plan is gonna be revealed, and ultimately he's gonna be revealed that to have been the mastermind behind killing or trying to kill Kublai. So I think I have predicted he's going to die. When, I'm not going to predict that just yet. It could be soon. It could be it could be in next episode. It could be at the end of the episode, or it could even be in season or episode 1 of season 3. Who knows? So I'm not going to predict when he's going to die. I'm just going to predict that he is going to die. And that is all my predictions so far for this whole season. With that said, I will say, as per usual, hit like if you like this episode. Hit subscribe if you want to see more of my videos of shows that I am recapping, and do not hesitate to discuss these episodes with me in the comments below, because I am more than happy to discuss them just as long as they're civilized and everything. And with that said, I will see you in the next episode of Marco Polo. Bye!